Welcome, everybody, to the RnR Catcast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy.
Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, Bobcat fans. Brickball has returned after a long winter, and it is still winter because it's 4 degrees currently in Bozeman. We are back after a sad end to football season. My grieving period is just about over, but we're back to basketball. We're back to conference play, and it's time to get into it. Foley, how you doing?
I'm good. It's not quite as cold over here in Spokane. I think it's like 15, but yeah, it's smacking you in the face right now.
You're not doing good. You're doing great because you've had a good night. Your Ohio State Buckeyes are national champions.
Yep.
And you got a nice little Bobcat win tonight. A big win over Eastern Washington at our place where we just took over in the second half. Women's team win by 2 in Cheney. That's 2 times this week that we have swept conference opponents. And men are building a little steam. Women have been just rolling. So as we get into not mid-conference play, but quickly approaching the middle of conference play, we got a lot to look forward to. I wasn't going to say that a month ago, but on the men's side, we're looking good. We're beginning to get where we thought we would be. And on the women's side, we're exceeding expectations right now.
Halftime for the national championship game, that is Ohio State Notre Dame tonight, coincided with the halftime of both the men's and the women's teams against Eastern. And Eastern always plays is really pesky. Like beating those guys in basketball, you never take it for granted because they play us tough in Eastern or in Cheney or in Bozeman. Montana State men and women both were down by 1 possession going into halftime. And I just had the sneaky feeling, I'm like, this could be a moment for the Cats, specifically the men, if we could pull this out and go on a little bit of a run. And look what we did. You know, I wasn't able to watch a lot of the second half because I was watching the football game, but I kept checking in with the score. And then we just built that lead in the second half. And it looked like we had a couple bang plays where we captured all the momentum and just buried them. You know, it sounded like Eastern had a little bit of frustration, but it's good to see the men go back-to-back wins, create some momentum, like kind of had us a little bit nervous there for a while. And it's really awesome to see the women just cooking, absolutely cooking, as the kids say.
It's been frustrating, to say the least, especially on my angle, going to a lot of these games as well as watching them. I'll let all the listeners in. Foley's been pestering me for, I don't know, about a month now to get another Brickball episode out, and with the football run, and we were all traveling. But also, I kind of was like, I had some good things to say about the women, but I don't think I had a full episode ready. And I think we can all agree that the non-conference, especially on the men's side, was an unmitigated disaster with how things went, and just wasn't good. I can't take a lot of positives away. I was very optimistic at the beginning of the year. I saw the transfers coming in. And one thing I learned from somebody close to the program was, and I asked them down in Frisco, I'm like, what's going on? Like, why are we not gelling? I thought we'd be way better. And they were like, well, we don't have we don't run plays. We run a system on offense. And I thought that was interesting because I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you don't run plays in basketball? And he goes, well, generally we run that system. And what I've found is when you run that system, and the more I've watched and the more I've analyzed since hearing that, is you got to gel. And when you have 5 guys who have been in the program and know the system and the timing, and you bring in, 5 to 7 other guys and you're fighting for minutes, it's hard to gel. And as this person was explaining to me, you're kind of ascending the peak here where it's going to be rough at the beginning. It's going to be a rough march. But when you get towards tournament time, and I think we saw that last year, and it explains a lot from last year, is by the time we got to March, the team was really gelling. We had found the guys that worked perfect. The first 10 minutes, middle 20, last 10 minutes. We had really honed that in. And so I hope, I'm knock on wood here, but I hope we've turned that corner right now where we're at a point in that system where guys are gelling to a point where we're going to start succeeding. Tonight against Eastern was one of our best defensive performances, I thought. They had some great shots. We kept them in check from 3, but it was the best I've seen so far of us looking like a complete unit. And that's what I want to see going forward, especially on the men's side.
So it's your take that Montana State's going to continue to kind of gel, as you're saying, and get better as we go forward. Do you
I
see
think,
other guys? And like kind of second part to that question
yeah.
for me would be like, who do you see stepping up as role players?
I I think I think this is something we might have to expect in the Logie era, that we might have some brutal Novembers. That's just something that we might have to live with. Is November Bobcat basketball could be a little tough, but you got to look for the wins and you got to look for the positives. Maybe your first week of January, both seasons has just been awful for us, last year and this year. And so we beat, gosh, we beat Eastern about this time last year, I want to say, and kind of got some footing. And we're like, hey, that looks good. And then, we still had some struggles, but down the stretch, we looked really darn good. So I think it's going to be tough going forward. That being said, Max Ogbenpolo from the start was one of the transfers that came in and just eye popped. Jabe Mullins has two. I think Jabe's taken a little bit more of a backseat since the start of the season for some more
Hmm.
minutes.
Hmm.
If you didn't watch, I just want to recap the Weber State win we had. Jed Miller went off, and I said going into last year that I hope Jed Miller would be our sixth man of the year, and he played lights out again tonight. He has done a great job. He's a hustle player, and so he's another guy I want to highlight. Brandon Walker too. He's been there. He's been frustrating this year. I think he could admit, and some of the team could admit, that he's also had some frustrating moments. But man, he's physical. He's a fun player to watch because when he gets physical and drives the post, that guy draws more fouls than anybody else I think I've seen in a long time. When he comes in the lane, he can draw fouls, and he's just got to keep going up with them. And he gets better as the season goes on because he gets so many reps.
He looks to be in better shape this year to me
Oh
as
yeah,
well. Yeah. Jed Miller had 30 minutes off the bench today. So back to back games where he kind of plays a key role. I'm just kind of wondering, it was pretty apparent that we were missing Robert Ford and
yep.
just his ability to not only be a point guard that distributes the ball and sets things up, but he could go get buckets himself whenever he needed it. He he masked a lot of these growing pains that are
Oh yeah.
frustrating Bobcat fans right now. So is Jed Miller that guy? Do you think he's the guy? Is Zephyr our guy for Robert Ford the third? His role that he vacated. Do we have a guy for that role?
Can I give you a Moneyball reference? If you can't replace Robert Ford, but you can replace him in the aggregate, I need
Okay,
three guys.
yeah,
um,
fair.
if you asked me this question 2 weeks ago, no, I'd say ball handling and our big man down low were serious problems and red flags I've noticed going forward. Ball handling seems to be getting better. We seem to be locking down the paint slightly better. I mean, it still wasn't good till we figured things out till the end of the year last year, but we need a big man. I thought we would have that in BJ Colley. I think he's still a little raw. I think Brandon Walker still is not that, height big man. You need your 6'10", 7-footer in the paint, and he's just not it. Max Polo, I thought could be, but he's more of a wing, to be honest.
Yeah,
He's got the height. When he's out there, he's the tallest wing, but he's a ball handler. He's not a center. And so that's
yeah,
another thing is we don't have a center and we don't have a, tier one ball handler. So you don't have a Robert Ford and you're missing that centerpiece. So you have to have a lot of dudes playing a zone to cover up for that. That being said, this team has a ton of wings, and that
yeah.
helps a
We do.
ton. Yeah, we got a ton of wings. So, uh, 3-point shooting. I mean, Tyler Patterson was hurt. That was a big kind of story tonight. It's first missed. I can't remember what it was, but he had the streak for most games appeared in a
Mhm.
Bobcat jersey. That came to an end tonight. So hopefully it's nothing. He had his arm in a little sling. I hope it's just a one game, maybe 1 week thing. We got the Grizz on Saturday, so it's time to buckle down. It got to the point a week ago where it was like, if we don't start winning conference games, we're in real trouble here. And
Yeah,
those top, 4 to 5 seeds in the conference are oh so valuable because you get the bye.
We moved up to 6 in the conference after the win tonight, which is nice. We still got some work to do. If we knocked off Montana this weekend, I wouldn't be surprised if we can bump up a spot or not. But it seems like the Cats are riding a little bit of a hot streak right now. But going into Missoula, that's a tough place to play no matter what. But they've kind of had some weird things going on lately. Like, what was it, last Saturday? Or was it this Saturday where who did they lose to where they just got smoked in the second half? Idaho
Idaho
State, the
State just
Bengals.
smoked
Yeah.
them, and that's another thing to
Man.
look forward to. I mean, positive notes, I'm trying to be positive all the time on this, is, we I saw a stat of the Big Sky teams, we had the most one-score losses.
Yeah.
So it's not like, besides December, early December and some of the power games we played, which I don't wanna get started on that. You can take a lot of things away from close losses, especially quite a few of them, and it's frustrating, and I think that's what was frustrating me is it's like, we're right there. We should be winning these games, and you just gotta turn that corner to win those games. You have to figure out how to win as this team, and hopefully, after a couple wins and some really competitive games, we've turned that corner, and hopefully we can get there. Going into
Still seems
Missoula and winning that would be massive.
Yeah, it still seems to me that Montana State needs that unquestioned leader. And without that, it feels a little bit lost to me. Can Miller be that guy? I was thinking Tyler Patterson was going to be that guy. But that doesn't seem like a role Tyler Patterson is suited for. He's great at his role, but he doesn't seem like the vocal leader that, hey guys, the buck stops with me. This is my team. This is I am the captain of this team. I want to know who our captain is. Could it be Jed Miller? Could it be Brandon Walker? I'm not sure, but somebody needs to step into that role as this year progresses. Because when it gets down to it, when we get into March, get into this playoff scenario, you
I
need a
have
captain. You need a leader to
Yep,
lead the team. Yeah,
and I have a really hard time looking at a 1 to 2 year transfer and giving them captainship.
yeah, for
I know
sure.
Robert Ford was a transfer. I know, you can get into all that, but he felt like a Bobcat at that point, and at that time last year, he was the most senior guy, one of the more senior guys on our team.
What about Sam Lecklock? Or what about Patrick
Yeah,
McMahon? Where's Brian Garacki? We need Brian Garacki to be the Brian Garacki we know.
yeah,
That is something I think you should kind of keep your eyes on and talk about, because last January he was a stud, and then all of a sudden,
he
in the latter
disappeared.
part of, yeah, he disappeared, right? And then where's he at? So we need him to step up, and he's coming off the bench now, which is
Yeah,
interesting. And well, I don't know what it is. It seems like Logie puts out different lineups almost
I
every.
can't keep track of it.
It's hard. It's hard to tell. So he's just mix and matching guys. But with the real Brian Racky, please stand up, because he was
Yeah,
looking like such a dude, and then he's like Jekyll and Hyde. Where'd he go?
yeah, it's an odd one. I totally did not see our non-conference coming. I could have seen maybe a little bit of a slow start to conference play. We've just been so close, and now we're at a point where we're getting to that middle of conference play. As I said, Boise does not seem that far away, to be honest.
Yeah,
And
right.
I mean, going into Idaho State, I was like, if we don't start winning games, this could be a long season. So glad to see we're there. It also hurt that we basically spent the entire month of December and a good portion of January to start on the road. I mean, we weren't in the brick for over a month. And
Sure.
what that does to the psyche of a team, not playing, sleeping in your own bed, being on the road, doing long trips, that's hard. And it just doesn't help. You got to have some home cooking.
Well, it looks like so we're going to Montana on Saturday. So we're back on the road. It looks like we're going to no. Then we have Sac State come back in.
Yep.
Yeah, that's always a weird week when we play the Cadgers. There's always a schedule anomaly that happens during that week.
Women have
That's why we're playing on Monday right now.
Yep. Women have 3 straight on the road coming up. Portland State transfer Esmeralda Morales has been she's so exciting to watch on our women's team, dude. She, like they're killing it. 17-2. What a season for Coach Binford. I know last year was well, I'll rewind 2 seasons ago. You share the conference regular season, then you lose in the first round of the tournament, and things seem to fall apart towards the end of that year, just personnel-wise. Then last year, you have it seemed like most of that team was hurt, and then most of them came back. You bring in a couple transfers, including Esmeralda, and they come in and just kick butt all year. They've been so good. I mean, to look forward to, NAU has been runner up in the conference the last 2 years, and I think they thought this was their year. And we went in there to the Walk Up Sky Dome, and we played one heck of a game against them and came out with a win. We're undefeated in conference. The women look really good this year. And about a week ago, I was like, well, if I'm going to Boise, I'm going to watch the women's team. So,
Yeah.
but hopefully we have 2 teams that are super competitive and good. But the women look really good and really
Yeah.
unstoppable at this point. The Grizz
Yeah.
women, you can go read up on that. Looks like they have some stuff going on. So there's never an easy win in the Brawl series, but the women should, crush the Grizzlies hopefully on Saturday, and we'll see how the men do. It should be competitive.
Hope so, man. Do we have the Cat Grizz trophy locked up? What is it? The
The
Down
Brawl
Pump
of the Wild
Challenge?
series. I think we have a 7-0 lead right now, so
Oh, all right.
I think it's pretty much locked. I mean,
Sounds good.
I know Leon's pretty happy about it. I think he likes to say that since he became athletic director, he's never lost that trophy. It's always stayed in Bozeman, which is I think 8 years in a row.
Let's keep it here.
Let's
Let's
keep it
go.
here. Volleyball trophies, the Train Bell trophy sitting in the gym right now. Oh, Great Divide trophies here. It's coming up, Bobcats. It's starting to
It's
come up,
coming up,
Bobcats
Bob.
again.
All right, man. Well, let's see. Trying to see if there's any spreads for the game on Saturday. I'm not seeing anything quite yet, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's still pretty early, but I don't know, man. It it was hard to think of what to say with that non-conference because I didn't have a lot of takeaways.
Oh,
The only takeaway I had from the entire non-conference was the women's team and how Esmeralda Morales, who's racked up some real big conference honors, they've gelled. They've got it going. I mean, that record is just impressive right now. 17-2 is awesome. They look like a women's tournament team easily.
mhm.
Obviously, you got to win in Boise, and there's no midseason accolades, but they were way more fun to watch. They were way more impressive. They just dominated most of those games. It wasn't even close for a good majority of them. The men's side, I was just frustrated. We looked weak on defense. Our offensive identity was unknown. I was frustrated with how many threes, and when you're missing threes and you're, 3 for 17, why are we still chucking them up? It's not going to get you back in a game. So
Yeah.
it's hard to analyze a team like that. And I know a lot of Bobcat fans were frustrated or distracted because of what the football team was currently doing. But we got to get to a point where we change the identity. I know you had asked me earlier in the week how you feeling about Logie overall, and I said I think my answer was I feel fine, but I don't judge coaches for one bad stretch. I judge coaches for 2 to 3 bad seasons.
My main concerns when I was watching the guys play ball was we didn't have a lot of inside game. It was just perimeter, 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 like you said, checking up the threes. And when they're going down, it's fun. But when they're not, we didn't have, like you said, set plays to run on the inside. Very different than Sprinkle's offense, right? Where we were just trying to feed in the inside and really work from the inside out. It just feels a lot different. In the last couple of games, have seen more. I don't know. It's not plays like you said. Maybe the system is working better, where they're getting better looks on the inside. We need that because we can't live just with the three ball.
You mean you don't like Brandon Walker dribbling 3 times in the paint, losing the ball inside? He's
It's a
been
good
better.
player.
Sorry, that was just
Yeah.
frustrating from the non-con. That was one of my things.
Uh,
That was just trying to do too much.
drinking game for Brandon Walker. Miss layups, miss free throws, turnovers. Ah,
Oh, yeah. I
he
I'm
scores though,
excited.
man. Like that
He had a
guy. Like,
great game tonight. Yeah, no, it works, but when it doesn't work, boy, it's frustrating, and
yeah,
he's just gotta go up with it. He can't be putting the ball on the ground that much, and he tries to bring the ball up. He's just not a dribbler. He's an enforcer down low, and he draws fouls, and that's what he should be doing.
yeah. It's old school type of player. I like him.
It's cool. Hey, I got a question for you. Has your view of college basketball changed at all in the last 4 years since we've been relevant?
Whew, in what
It's kind of a
ways?
heated question. Just
Yeah.
overall general, because I'll tell you this, I only cared about the NCAA tournament for the most part. NFL got done, and until Sprinkle brought us back from the dead, my care level for most college basketball was pretty low. Last time I think I seriously cared about college basketball before the end of COVID was Brandon Roy at Washington.
Hmm.
So I was just kind of thinking about that as my view of college basketball, and I watch obviously quite a bit in the last 4 seasons, is it's changed because I think there's a lot of great stuff going on at mid majors, as well as the big boys are changing quite a bit right now with conference realignment, a lot of stuff on that end. I think it's more competitive. I think it's way more fun as a product, and then you add in the ESPN Plus thing where more fans can watch and engage. It's really brought my attention level way higher, regardless of this podcast.
Yeah. For me, I've always really welcomed Montana State basketball. It's something I've followed ever since I was going to school there. It was always there was a lot of seasons in football where you were just like, man, the feels at the end of the season for whatever reason could have been a bad season, could have been an epic loss at the very end where we had a great season. We've lived it all. So the change of pace that basketball brings was always refreshing to me. And it's also always been refreshing the last couple of years. Like you said, we've had the ESPN availability to, it's cold and dark a lot of times over here in the Pacific Northwest. You're just like, it's just a grind in at night when it's a Tuesday or a Thursday and you can flip on Bobcat basketball. It gives you a little bit of a reprieve from reality, it feels like, in a certain way. So having success with Coach Sprinkle, the fun that we saw at the end of the year with Logie has made it really enjoyable. Like, it's something to look forward to. You're like, oh man, the cats are relevant. We have some players and gets the crowds like from afar. Like, you're there. I'm watching it on ESPN. It looks more full. It looks exciting. Like, the momentum's there. It's not like peering in when you're you're looking at the games over at Sac State or Portland State where there might be 2,000 people in the crowd if they're lucky. So yeah, it's been fun. It hasn't really changed that much to me. It just continues to get more fun for me.
I think I agree. More fun is a great way to put it.
And you don't live and die on every
Yeah.
game either
No, you
because you
don't.
know that the really only thing that really matters is that week in Boise. I mean, there's more that matters, like getting the seed, a top 4 seed, so blah, 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 but you can still make a run. And
Yeah.
I think that's why people are not going to be discounting Montana State. Like, if we're sitting there in the mid, if we're just like the 5th seed or something, nobody's going to want to play us because
Nope.
last 3 years, hey man, we've been dancing. We know what to do when it comes time to that tournament.
We know how to make it hard on ourselves. I will say, Boise puts on a great event. Been on the record saying that, but if the city of Phoenix would like to pick it up rather than Boise in February, it is cold and dark still in in Boise in March, and I don't like being cold that long. So, that's- welcome to Montana, I guess. But
Yeah.
I'm at that point, especially March, where I'm like, I am done being cold.
Yeah. Well, I like that Boise. See, I wish it was over here in Spokane. To me, that would be another great option. And if they ever move it, I hope it is here in Spokane. I would love that.
Spokane would be great because I feel like it would be easier for several of the fan bases to get to.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard for some fan bases because Boise has a airport presence, but it's still tough. It's not
All
exactly
right,
the easiest
Zach,
place to get to.
I do have a question for you. And this is not basketball centered because you and I have not actually spoke maybe on since we've seen each other in Frisco. How you doing with the wrap up of football?
Tough. It was tough. I felt sad. After that game, the way I'll put it, I felt sad not for myself as a fan. I remember walking out into the hallway we were right next to each other in the boxes that where we were sitting.
Mm.
And I walked out in the hallway and the first thought that came to my mind is this sucks for the players, for the coaches, for Keaton, for the athletic department, for Leon, for everybody we know. As a fan myself, I wanted it for, obviously for me. My dad's a huge Bobcat. He's been a part of this. Going to all the games that I went to, especially getting to share those memories with him and, see you guys and share those memories. I didn't feel sad for myself. I felt sad for everybody who we know that has put so much blood, sweat, and tears into this program.
Yeah.
And you never deserve a national title. You'll never deserve, you say we deserve to win the national title. I don't believe in that. But I did think this team did everything to win a national title. And when I left in 21, I left thinking this was a great experience. We now know where the standard is, what the standard is. And I left the stadium in 24 feeling we were at the standard and we just failed to meet it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That's um looking back at it, I have rewatched part of the game, but just I haven't brought myself to watch the whole thing yet. I think my takeaway is I thought we played an okay football game. I thought we made some mistakes. I thought we were okay. And that effort could have beaten 90% of the teams, maybe 95% of the teams in the FCS. Hats off. I can't be mad at that game because North Dakota State brought their A-plus game and they played like national champions. I don't feel like that game was stolen from us, to put it that way. If a bad call goes your way or, there's something that happens, those guys showed up for North Dakota State and they played one hell of a football game. So that's not a consolation, but I was like, those guys went out there and they took that game by the horns and they beat us. We got beat. Um, it sucks if you know the Morgan Wallen song 98 Braves. I think the 2024 Bobcats are going to be my 98 Braves going forward. I'll think a lot about this team. It's still pretty fresh of my fandom of teams that I've rooted for, cheered for, and seen. I'm finding it hard not to place the 2024 Montana State football team at the top of all-time teams I'll remember. So I, I'm sad. I'm going to be sad. The last thing I'll leave you on, little hopium. Uh, we we have everything in place. I think Bobcat Nation saw that. We have a brand new indoor facility that's going to be done here in a couple months. We've got a great fan base. We have a great coach. We have a great athletic department. We have a great school. We've got a great town and we've got a great state. We have everything it takes to win. I think going forward, there are 4, maybe 5 teams that can win a national title at the FCS level, and we are one of them. Way too early preseason predictions come out, and we're already in the top 4 going into next year. It's one of the things I look forward to of seeing of regardless of what happens, if we lose a coach, how many transfers we have, come Gold Rush, there's going to be 22,000 people in Bobcat Stadium, and you can expect a top 5 ranking next to the Bobcats names. That is the standard. My thing going forward at this level of the current rate of where the FCS is if you don't make the semifinals, it's a failed season. and you should expect to go play for national championships every year at Montana State.
Yeah.
So it's hard. I'm sad for everybody that we know within the Montana State program. I'm sad for the parents of the kids. I'm sad for the kids. I'm sad for a lot of people. And that's the biggest thing I've come back to is I know what it took from the inner workings of this program to get here. And I felt horrible leaving that, seeing the faces and just what it was of those people and what they left on the field, what they left all year, because that's their jobs. So sorry, long-winded, but that's kind of how where I am.
Yeah, I've been a bit sad as well for many of the same reasons, but I'm actually a little bit more upset, like more angry. It's kind of like the phases you go through when you have a breakup and you're like, first you're just like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
and then you're pretty sad and you're like, I want revenge. And it feels like we just can't get past that giant that is North Dakota State.
Yep.
We have to conquer that. That has to be on the list next year. And I was talking with Thorny, and I was like, so, "Hey, we're gonna do this 1-0 mentality again. Is that gonna be our battle cry?" And he's like, Thorny's take is like, "No, they're gonna change it next year." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. Why? Why should we?" And it's really good. Do you have to have a new battle cry for each season? Do we need one? Um, or is it just that the standard and let's keep it the standard? But when it comes down to being those guys, we have to do that, whether it's in the semifinal game or national championship game, because I think you're right, man. I think there's probably 4 teams that could win the whole thing, maybe 5. And we're certainly one of them. And it's kind of is it kind of just really made me think this year that Montana, like the the momentum, the institutional momentum, the athletic momentum, everything Bobcats, it just coalesced in such a way where you're like, oh, we're here at the top now. Like in seeing the facility being built next to the stadium, you're like, yeah, Montana State's just going to continue to be at the top. There's no like this is good or this is luck. Hopefully, we're back here next year. Like we've been for a while now, a top 4 team. Montana State should never be number 10 in the nation going forward in the FCS at this current iteration that we have. So yeah, expectations are high for me, but yeah, right now I'm just kind of upset. I'm just kind of mad. I'm like, I just kind of want a little bit of revenge on those Bison. That's where I'm at.
I'll say something and then immediately contradict what I'm about to say. So, I absolutely hate the phrase, well, there's always next season. You'll get them next year. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Tommy Malotte's not wearing a Bobcat jersey next season. I mean, we lost our offensive coordinator. He's not going to be calling plays next year. Brody Greavy's never suiting up in a Bobcat uniform again. Rylan Orts, Connor Moore apparently is not. Scott Trey Humphrey's not. Drew Polidor's not. I go on. Ryan Lonergan's not. So there's a lot. It's like, okay, but to those guys, there isn't a next season. This is it. This group is not going to have a next season. There's going to be different guys, and it's going to be the same jerseys, but the faces and names are going to change, and they don't get next year. And that's what I was thinking about, because I hate that phrase. There's always next year. Well, yes, as a fan, but if you strip your fandom away and you look at the bones of the team, there's a lot under the roof, under the hood that you got to look at and change. Now to the contradiction point. Again, we're we're at a point at this program where we should expect to be there next year, and going forward, the sky will not be falling for Montana State at the SCS. We don't have a window. Some teams have you hear about this, especially in pro sports. You have a championship window. You have a 2 to 3 year stretch to get it done. I don't feel like Montana State has a championship window. You
If
should expect
anything,
to be in it year in and year out, fighting to make it to the national title and fighting for it.
yeah. If anything, that they're in a space right now that they would almost have to have catastrophic things happen for them not to be in it at the very end for this time. Man. Yeah. It's we still need to get more physical on the lines. We still got bullied around a little bit. I thought we lost the line of scrimmage both sides, to be honest. And that was kind of still a kick in the nuts. Uh, Those guys over at North Dakota State, they're just big and ugly and physical. And I don't know how we get those guys here on Montana State. We have quite a few. We've really closed that gap, but I still feel like we lost the edge on the lines.
I thought their secondary played a hell of a game, and I thought our secondary got burnt quite a bit.
Yeah, we played a ton of soft coverage.
Yep.
A ton of soft coverage. Simeon Woodard was 10 yards off. Lance, what's his name? Lance.
Bryce Lance is going to be a
Bryce
top,
Lance, yeah.
mark this. Bryce Lance will be a top three round pick out of the NFL.
Oh, sometimes when we needed to press him and make him earn it, we weren't. We were just conceding that 5-yard out, and they used it. And good on them, and bad on us for not adjusting to it. Our defensive play call or offensive play call, I mentioned that with Thorny, it just wasn't our best, man. We did not coach the best game. We did not play the best game. We played an okay game, just like you said.
Cam Miller played lights out. I know I've been complimentary of Lane Larison. Bryce Lance is the greatest player we saw all season.
Whew,
that guy
a
made
hot take, man.
plays.
It's a hot take. Yeah,
that guy made plays. Towards the end of the game, I think we had that third down late in the game. They had the ball on our about 45 yard line, it felt like, and we had to stop them. And it's like 3rd and 4, and they threw that fade to the left side of the field, and they threw the ball directly almost towards us where we were sitting.
Yeah.
And when the ball went up and I saw Bryce Lance go for it on the other side of the field, my first initial reaction was that ball's 5 yards overthrown. And he closed the gap, and he just outstretched arms, caught that ball at the 2. And it's like, well, what are you going to do? Because the coverage on that was honestly pretty good. And it was like, all right, well, one of the best guys we've seen all year just went up and made, the play of the game.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. I'm sad. I'm going to be sad. Spring game is less than 100 days away, hopefully. Oregon's going to be interesting, to say the least. I'm not exactly happy we opened the season with the Ducks, but yippee.
Well, we'll curtail the football talk now, but I just wanted your take on it, because I always appreciate your take on how it went. And but yeah, anyways, brick ball, right? We're here to talk fast.
See, this is why we didn't put out an episode for a while, because we were just our minds were just in one place. My mind especially was in one place. As much as I was watching the team, I was like, why am I watching us get blown out in non-conference game when I'm all happy about football? But nonetheless, we're in full basketball season right now. Oh man, it's been a fun year as a Bobcat. It's always fun to be a Bobcat, but it's been an extra fun year for sure.
Shifting gears,
Join. I think next week we'll have a more regimented show with some stats. Maybe Thorny joining us on that one. For this one, I just wanted to get the feels out of how you felt about the team. So it was fun, man. It was a good shake through. I feel better talking about a lot of this stuff too. Always do.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. Let's get out of here.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.